Hi everyone, Hadley here with Hillcrest Tennis. Today we are going to be discussing how to really enhance your tennis IQ. Last week we talked a lot about developing that tennis IQ, and so today we will be moving forward on that discussion. And so we're going to be talking about two of my top 10 rules and tactics that I think are necessary to developing that IQ and also helping you win more matches. So today, first off, we're going to be talking about my top 10 tennis tactics to win more points. Okay. So I'm going to hold up my top 10 and then we'll discuss each one. Okay, so the first one, don't beat yourself, adjust swing to incoming ball, hit high when defensive or off balance, play neutral and defensive shots cross court, play down the line when you can hurt your opponent, use angles when inside baseline in attacking position, strive to catch the ball on the bounce, and then seek the ball early when opponent is in trouble, vary height, pace, spin, and placement, and against drop shots, hit deep down the line. Okay, so those are the top 10, and we'll be discussing those in detail, and then we'll move on to discussing the top 10 rules to beat net rushers. Okay, so we're going to, first off, our number one is don't beat yourself. Okay, so what does that mean? A few weeks back, one of our first lives, we talked about 75% of points are won between the 0 to 4 shot, before 0 to 4 shots are hit. Okay, so beating yourself is putting the ball into play, not making the error before your opponent. And let's back up just a little bit. Let's talk about tactics. So tactics are specific shots and your court positioning that will help you execute your strategy successfully. So, strategy is, cross court down the line, but tactics are these specific things that will help you execute that strategy. Okay, so we'll go back to number one, don't beat yourself. So again, strong tactic, just keep the ball in play, because your opponent 75% of the time will miss before 4 shots are hit. So if we can really have that mindset and that mentality of keeping that ball in play and making your opponent make the error, we're really going to, our percentage of winning the point goes up significantly. Okay. All right. So number 2, okay, adjust your swing to the, according to what the incoming ball looks like. So, for example, if your opponent is hitting hard and fast, we don't want to take that bigger backswing because the ball is coming harder and the ball is going to hit and come right at us. So we have to abbreviate that backstroke. So our backstroke is not going to be as big and as loopy. It's going to be shorter and abbreviated. If the ball is high, okay, and the ball has a little bit more of an arc, you want to get that racket to the level of the ball, and you're going to swing across like you're going to clear a table. Okay, so those kinds of things, adjusting that swing. If you're at the net and the ball is higher and loopier, you're not going to take a huge swing. You're going to abbreviate it just a little bit, and you're going to move your body to the ball rather than using your swing to make that adjustment. Okay. Number 3, hit high when you're in a defensive position or you're off balance. What does hitting high do? Hitting high gives you the opportunity to get back into position and to give yourself time, and it pushes your opponent back. Okay, so the higher the ball, the more time you have to get back into position. A lot of players think that they have to go for 100% shot when they're out of position or off balance. No, give yourself that opportunity to get back into the point, and then give yourself a second to take a deep breath and reset, and it really neutralizes that point, and it neutralizes your opponent. And it kind of paralyzes them too, because they think that they have that point won. But if you can really give yourself that opportunity to get back into the point, you've now increased your chances of winning that point significantly. Okay, on to the next one. Play neutral and defensive shots cross court. So if the ball is hit to the middle of the court, so if we're looking back here, if it's hit to the middle of the court here, all right, or again, you're off balance and you're defensive, moving back or off the court, you're trying to hit that ball cross court. Okay, why do we hit the ball cross court? Okay, so we've talked a lot about this in our clinics, and it's a pretty well-known fact that we have more court to hit to if we're going cross court, and then we also are hitting over the lower part of the net. Okay, so again, more court, lowest part of the net, and you have to take fewer steps to get back into position if you hit cross court. If you hit down the line, you have to take 5 to 7 steps versus 2 steps if you hit cross court. Okay. All right. Playing down the line when you can hurt your opponent. Okay. So really, we talk about this for doubles specifically. Changing direction of the ball only when you can hurt your opponent. Same thing applies for singles, or even when you're still playing doubles. Hitting down the line is really a low percentage shot. So you should only hit it if you can hurt your opponent. Okay. If when you hit it, you've got to hit it. You can't be tentative, and you can't second guess yourself. You really have to be decisive in that decision, and recognizing those times when you can really hurt your opponent. Extremely important tactic to keep in mind, because too often do we hit down the line and we hit it down the line too early, and we've now hurt ourselves more than we've hurt our opponent. And so really making sure that we recognize those opportunities and be decisive about it. Okay. All right. Number 6, using angles when inside the baseline when you're in attacking position. So last week we discussed zones, and we've kind of talked about this week, and the middle of last week with some of our clinics, and talking about those zones. And so zone 1, 2, and 3 are inside the service box, and then also a section behind the service line. So if we're in zone 3, all right, zone 3 and 2 and 1 are great places to start using those angles. If we're in zone 5, which is the baseline, or 6, we really have no angle, and that's why it's important to keep the ball cross court. But once we step inside that, we're moving forward into 3 and 2. We now have more angle to hit to, and so we can now hurt our opponent by hitting to those angles, and it allows us to hit those shots with more certainty. Okay. All right. Number 7, strive to catch the ball on the bounce. About 2 weeks ago, we discussed this. We had Noah demonstrating what we're looking for, and that's really hitting that ball regardless of the flight of the ball. We want to hit it as it bounces. So you really think about when we're hitting, we're thinking about the rhythm of the ball. When you go to hit, as the ball bounces, you really have to think about how that rhythm has to, your tempo has to pick up when the ball bounces, because it's, as you hit, it's over the net and then it bounces and then your opponent hits. But when it comes over to your side and it bounces, your tempo has to pick up, because that ball, you really have to be on time with that contact point. So really striving to hit the ball on the bounce, and that will allow you to have better timing, and you're going to take time away from your opponent, which is huge. Okay. All right. And in conjunction with that, number 8 is we're going to seek the ball early when your opponent is in trouble. So really, again, recognizing when your opponent is in trouble, and you're going to take the ball as early as possible, because taking that ball early, again, really takes time away from your opponent, and it puts stress on them. And so we really want to emphasize recognizing when your opponent is off balance and out of position. And then you're also going to want to be taking that ball early so that you don't give them that time to recover. So, if you pull your opponent off the court, okay, and even if they hit a high loopy ball like we've been talking about, you really want to take that ball early and out of the air, because even if you mishit it, even if you hit it right to the middle of the court, you've now taken time away from them, and so you're going to be more effective, and again, setting yourself up for success. Okay, number 9, varying your height, your pace, your spin, and your placement. So important. Too often do we just hit hard, but there's also a huge emphasis that needs to be placed on these important tactical aspects of the game. We really need to recognize when we need to change the pace. Sometimes a high loopy ball is way better than a hard fast ball. All right, because the tendency is for people, they groove and they start to, if you have a strong forehand, that's an awesome shot to hit, but also recognize that taking a little bit of pace off of it and placing it at an angle or with a little bit of slice so that it changes up that pace so that your opponent doesn't start to groove on it. And that variation will give you so many more opportunities to be aggressive and to put the ball away. Okay, and number 10, against the drop shot, hit deep down the line. So really the tendency here is we hit the, if we're brought up into zones 1 and 2 inside that service box and it's short and low, we try and go cross court. But really, if we can really try and bump it deep down the line to keep the ball in front of you, if you think about it, if you go cross court and it's short, and that it leaves the whole court open to hit down the line. But if you can keep the ball in front of you, it keeps you in position at the net, and it makes them take more steps to go get that ball. So really trying to focus in on that shorter ball, trying to hit that ball down the line. Okay, so that wraps up our top 10 tactics to win more points. And now we're going to shift gears and we're going to go into the 10 rules to beat net rushers. Okay. All right. So let me get my papers here. All right. Our top 10 rules to beat net rushers. Okay. And all right. So we'll go over these and then we'll go over these in detail. Here we go. Stay relaxed and watch the ball. Make your opponent play. Number 3, take the ball early and off the bounce. Number 4, move diagonally into the court after hitting passing shots. Offensive lob to keep opponent off the net. Use high defensive lobs when forced. Make your opponent play when returning overheads. Hit mostly cross-court passing shots on key points. Lower is better than hard. And consider the body shot. Okay, so those are our top 10, and we'll discuss those right now. Okay, so too often do players feel that pressure? So if you think about why would you as a player want to come to the net? What benefit does that give you to come to the net? For me, number one, it puts extreme pressure on my opponent, and number two, it makes me more aggressive, and it pushes my opponent back. Okay, so those are my two reasons for coming to the net. So we also have to be intelligent about when we go to the net. We tend to rush it, and if we're not hitting the correct shots to come forward, now we set ourselves up for failure. And so, but we're going to reverse the role. So if we have an opponent that is coming forward and putting pressure on us, these are the things that we need to be thinking about and kind of reprogram our mind and how we approach the passing shot and how we attack the person that is attacking us strategically. Okay, so number one, stay relaxed and watch the ball. A lot of players, we really tend to lift up and watch where we're going to hit, and we're watching the target rather than watching the ball. So watching that ball all the way through contact, because really you already know where you're going to hit it. And so the key here is just to watch the ball and hit to the spot. Don't peek and look up to where you're going to hit it. Okay, so watching that ball all the way through contact, no peeking. Okay, and then number two, make your opponent play. No free points. That's the cardinal problem that we have here, is that players think that they have to hit it way hard and way past them. No free points. All right, the best passing shot is making your opponent stretch and at least make them touch the ball. It's a bonus if they don't hit it, but really trying to make them stretch, and even if they get that ball back, now you're in position to hit to the open court. So really think of it as a setup shot for the winner. Okay. Number three, take the ball early and off the bounce. Okay, so we're really trying to take that time away from our opponent. So if they do come in, taking it early and taking it off of the bounce, because now they're anticipating that you're going to take this big swing. But if we can really take that time away from them, it really helps. It's to your advantage. Okay. Number four, moving diagonally into the court after you've hit the shot. So anticipating that short ball after your passing shot, because if we go back to rule number two, making them play and making them stretch, that next ball will be short. So you're wanting to move in and cut that ball off so that you can really take advantage of it. So not standing stationary and just watching. You really have to hit and then move into the court. Okay. All right. Number five, using an offensive lob to keep your opponent off of the net. Okay. One of my favorite things to do is to, bring my opponent up with a short ball, and they hit it back, and then I lob it back over them, and it keeps them from closing in and keeping pressure off of me, and it allows me to hit that nice lob, and even if they get it back, then it sets me up for an overhead. So I really like that tactic. It can really be detrimental to your opponent. Okay. All right. Using a high defensive lob when you're forced. So, the number one thing I think to take away from when you're going to go hit a lob is the best lob is the one that is at least hit. And so if you can go back and you can hit to their backhand nice and high, and you're off and you're in the defensive position, it really neutralizes that point and really gets you back into the point. Okay. And another tip is to hit to the middle of the court and hit it as high as you can. The higher you can hit it, the more you can, the more time you give yourself, and the more it neutralizes your opponent. So I really try and hit it high enough that I know that they're going to let it bounce, and that really resets the point, and it gets me back into position and gives me time to kind of breathe and then get back into the point. Okay, making your opponent play when returning the overhead. So going to that last tip is, you hit it high for them to neutralize the point. Well, if they let it bounce and they hit it back, the tendency is to overhit, and we're not ready for that next ball. So really being prepared and being ready to hit that next ball. And all you need to do is hit it back to the middle, get reset, and reset that point. So, you hit that high lob, get yourself back into position, they get it back, and then you just hit it back to the middle and reset. And then you can restart your strategy and your tactics from there. Okay, number 8, mostly cross-court passing shots on key points. Okay, so if we think about this with the pattern, okay, so if you hit cross-court, the angle of the ball, they can really only hit down the line, which is an easier ball for you to retrieve. If you hit down the line, then and you don't hit it just right, they have that angle cross court, which is a more difficult ball to retrieve. So really trying to get that ball cross court, make them stretch and make them reach for that ball. And again, then you'll be moving diagonally into the court, and you can cover that next ball and then hit it down the line. Okay, so that kind of pattern and strategy and tactic all kind of come into play together. Okay, all right, and then that leads into the next one. Lower is better than hard. Okay, just think about, if somebody hits me a hard ball, it's really easy for me to block it and direct it to where I want it to go. But if the ball is low, it really makes me bend, and typically I'm going to be hitting up on that ball, and then my opponent is then going to hit down on the ball. Okay, so really thinking about on a key point, hitting that ball cross court and low, and get it to dip down at their feet. So it really has a dip shot, and so that requires you to get some topspin, and it's not hard and flat. It's going to be that dipper shot, and cause your opponent to stretch and hit up so that you can hit down, and you can be the aggressor. Okay, and number 10, all right, consider the body shot. We very often in clinics, we talk about that breadbasket, hitting to that body box, somewhere between shoulder to waist and in between their, shoulder width. Okay, that's the body box. Make them hit it into their body box, because it puts them on the defensive, and the person is the bigger target. And it's not like you're going after them and trying to take their head off. You're just hitting to that target, and they will get out of the way. And so you just have to think at their body is just as good as making them stretch, because this is the harder volley to hit. Okay, because if we get out here and we stretch out here, they can get lucky, but this shot into the body, so difficult to hit. So, okay, that wraps up my 2 top 10 lists. The first top 10 was the tennis tactics to win more points, and the second one is the 10 rules to beat the net rushers. So I hope that's helpful. Please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful week. Come down and play some tennis. The courts are open. It's going to be a beautiful week with weather, and hope to see you at the courts, and have a great day.